All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Brian, and this is Amy News and Conversation. I'm here today with an exciting guest, Susan Neadle, and we're going to be talking about combination products, which is probably a buzzword you've heard about, but you may not necessarily know what it is, or maybe it's something that you've been thinking about and you're worried about, or you have some ideas. So, Susan, can you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are.
Sure. My name is Susan Neadle. I am principal consultant and president of Combination Products Consulting Services. And I also am happily the instructor for the AAMI Combination Products curriculum. I also teach at University of Maryland, Baltimore campus, and retired after a lengthy career at Johnson & Johnson, where I headed up Combination Products Center of Excellence for Janssen, as well as J&J Worldwide before I retired. So I'm
Yeah.
very happy to be with you.
No, and that even speaks to the subject that we're talking about today. Combination products, it sounds like, oh, it's only one type of product, it's a small thing, but it's a large enough subject for you to have built a whole career around. Um, and I wanted to dive a little bit into that though. I had done a little bit of research before hopping into this call, and I had seen that Google search trend data was showing that the number of searches made for the term combination products or the query, what is a combinations product, they've increased four times over in the last decade, which is kind of an indicator that this is a trending thing. Um, I guess the main question is, what is a combination product? Is that easy to talk about?
Sure. So I'll use the U.S. terminology for it for a moment. So combination product in the United States is basically a combination of where you're bringing together a drug, a biologic, or a medical device for combined use with each other. So a drug and a device, a drug and a biological product, a device and a biological product, or a drug device biologic combination. Those are all considered combination products in the United States. I paused and I said United States because the
Yes.
interpretations around the world are different and they don't all necessarily interpret it quite the same way.
Hmm. Before we dive into that a little bit, I was curious, can you give us some examples of different kinds of combination products?
Sure. So, most common are a lot of the drug-led combination products or biologic-led combination products where you have a biological product, let's say an oncology drug, that has to be delivered through a some kind of an injection device to be able to avoid the gastrointestinal tract. So any kind of pre-filled syringes or auto injectors for delivery of those types of products are considered combination products. It brings together the biologic with the device that's a delivery system. On the flip side, on the device-led products, you have things like drug-coated stents and catheters, where perhaps a drug has been impregnated or coated onto a medical device to bring added benefits or enhance the performance of that device, maybe to prevent infections or prevent clotting, things like that. Might be a reason for, adding a drug or a biologic aspect to a device constituent.
That's interesting too, because I would think of that drug as a component of the medical device, but at the same time, I understand that that drug obviously needs to be regulated too.
Exactly. And depending on where you are in the world, drugs and biologics are sometimes not regulated differently. They're considered quote unquote medicinal products. So in Europe, you've got devices and medicinal products. And they
Mhm.
talk about the drug being ancillary or the medicinal product being ancillary to the performance of the device, or the device is ancillary to the performance of the drug. So when I say that a device is being used to administer the drug, the main purpose of that product is the therapeutic effect of the drug. And the device that's being used to administer, it's ancillary. It's something I need, but it's not the core reason for the therapy, right? So that's kind of key terminology that goes into this.
Does that mean that manufacturers are actually having to change how they market or manufacture a device in different countries?
A lot of it ties to the actual registration for those products. There's some best practices, I'd say, with the FDA in terms of CGMPs, the current good manufacturing processes for or practices for combination products, and those practices are fairly well recognized as being best practices. So those actual manufacturing activities are going to be pretty consistent from country to country to country.
Hmm.
But what's different is Like in the United States, maybe it's a product, I'll pick on contact lenses, a drug-eluting contact lens is regulated as a drug, I'm throwing in another terminology, primary mode of action, versus in Europe, that same exact product will be regulated as a device primary mode of action. And you're like, what? Oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
it impacts your quality system and impacts some of the data that you may have to put in front of a regulator as part of getting approval for that product. Primary mode of action, seeing as I've introduced that term, is
Please,
talking
yeah.
about if I have a product that has different constituent parts, like a drug and a device,
Mhm.
which one of those constituent parts of that product is the thing that's the key driver for the performance of that product. So if I think about when I started talking about medicinal products where the device is being used as ancillary to the drug is a primary mode of action, the device is secondary. So it's drug primary mode of action. The contact lens example is fun because it's considered a borderline product where, you know what, that device, that contact lens is being used to correct vision. That's important. It's significant. But the drug that I'm impregnating into that lens is also important. It's significant.
Right.
How do I decide? Different countries around the world have different mechanisms for determining products that are quote unquote borderline, what the designation of those products are. And based on the algorithm that the FDA uses, they use something called a request for designation process that goes by the consistency of that product with other products on the market, and then the safety and efficacy risks associated with that product and which center of the FDA has more expertise in it. They will designate it as, for that contact lens, drug-eluting contact lens, they designate it as drug because the safety and efficacy concerns are the
Huh.
primary concern.
Right.
In Europe, they designated that exact same product as medical device because in their view, that device constituent part has an ancillary drug impregnated in it, and they're going to require you to have separate approval for that drug and a scientific opinion that gets embedded within the registration for that medical device, the contact lens. You can tell as I'm saying this, I'm going, oh gosh, this is complicated. There's a lot to it.
Well, that's I guess that's the point of it, though, right? We have a 3 day dedicated course that you're teaching. I think it's 6 modules. Is that right? So
Yeah,
it's
six
it's
modules.
how many hours per day for each course?
It depends on the module. The introductory module goes, what's a combination product, key terminology. That module is about an hour and a half, 2 hours. The next class is about the CGMPs, the current good manufacturing practices. That one's probably another 2 hours. When I get into product development and risk management, each of those are 3 or 4 hours, depending on the number of questions when I'm teaching it. So those are the modules 3 and 4. Module 5 is a life cycle management lecture. That's also another 3 hours because there's a lot to post market.
Yeah.
It goes from design transfer all the way through process validation through to post market safety reporting. And then the
That's
last
amazing. So
module, yeah,
even up to the point where all of everything people have just learned, they successfully get their product to market. But oh wait, now there's all these other things you need
there's
to
still
consider.
things to deal with, change
3 more hours
control,
of
all sorts
learning.
of things. And then finally, the last module is on inspection readiness. So the same way that within companies, there's a lot of learning about, hey, wait, it's a drug. Oh, it's a device. Or wait, no, it's a
Hmm.
combination product. And the terminology, sometimes you're using the exact same words for the drug world as you use in the device world, but the interpretation is different. There's a different
Oh,
dictionary. So that creates all sorts of confusion, not just for industry, but also for health authorities. So the inspection readiness piece of it is helping you contend with that, both internal to your organization and as you're interfacing with health authorities.
geez. And I can imagine, just as you're walking through this, that there might be some consequences, delays in getting your product to market, or once it's on the market, there might be other consequences if you don't know what's going on here. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's very fair to say, and it's also the caution of people will treat it as a siloed activity. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
the device people, they're comfortable with what they're doing. They're going to go down their path. The drug people are going to go down their path. and they each are in their own comfort zone. They don't want to know what the other one's doing. That's their problem. If you have that mindset with an organization, that culture, it's actually going to lead to other delays or even repeats of activities because they need to be integrated. So when we think about drug development, you're using quality by design, you're using ICH-Q9R1 for risk management, very, very focused on that drug. On the device side, you're very, very focused on using design controls and doing all the appropriate things from risk management under ISO 14971. But when you need to bring these products together, and AAMI actually has a great standard, AAMI TIR 105, that talks about combination products risk management. And it's the integration of the activities for drug development and device development. And you need to always be thinking holistically of each constituent part of your combination product and then the product as a whole.
I wanted to step back a second because you mentioned something really important here. And the name of the course itself is Combination Products, a Risk-Based Approach. For anybody watching, the next one is going to be on September 18th to 20th. But why risk management first? Why is that the most important thing to build a framework around?
It is the foundation for everything that's been put in place when it comes to combination products. So risk management, you could think of it as a cog turning other wheels, right? So if I'm doing design controls, why am I doing it? It's because I want to proactively design in quality and avoid breakdowns in the product over the life. It's design controls because the controls are there to control risk, right? I want to avoid having safety and efficacy issues with my product. If I think about purchasing controls, I'm trying to control, make sure that I've got safe and effective product through my suppliers. I want to do management controls. I want to make sure I've got a business that is set up for success, thinking holistically about the whole product. And then corrective and preventive action is another called out provision. The whole point of CAPA is to manage risk. So when you think about it, fundamentally, that risk management concept and the systems and practices that go with risk management really are the cog that ties it all together. And so, yeah, that's why it's a risk-based approach.
It sounds important. And anybody reading this right now or listening to this is probably thinking, wow, Susan really sounds like she's written the book on combination products. But you have, right? So can you tell us a little bit about that?
So over the last couple of years, I retired from J&J. I mentioned that. And after I retired from J&J, I was like, I'm not done giving back. I still have all this stuff in my head and I need to get it on paper. And I also have a strong network across the industry. I've been very active in a number of industry working groups. Currently, I'm also chairing ISPE, Combination Products Committee of Practice. I chair the ASTM International Combination Products CGMP Best Practices Standard Committee, where we've got regulators from around the world interacting with us. So like using that network of contacts was like, you know what, let's build a book that actually goes from concept all the way through post-market for combination products and also addresses the international regulations as well. Historically, there's been a lot on US, but what about everywhere else? And with all the evolving regulatory environment, especially in Europe, it's becoming increasingly important. None of the resources that I would look to really captured the whole tale end to end. And when they did, they weren't necessarily practical. They were all theory-based. Like, okay, this is what the regulation says. Let me regurgitate it back to you. So the idea with this book was, it's called Combination Products, a Practical Guide to Combination Products and Other Combined Use Systems. It includes templates, it includes case studies, and it's authored by experts across the industry. Yes, I'm one of the authors in it. John Barwiener wrote the introduction to the book. He's from the Office of Combination Products at the US FDA, and he actually helped me with peer review of that book as well to make sure that it really reflected the contents that it needed to going out and was accurately reflecting the regulatory perspective.
And John works on a lot of the standards work with AAMI and the International
and he
Organization for
sits on
Standardization.
the AAMI Combination Product Steering Committee. He's also a member of that as well.
No, that's fantastic. Just for the audience, where can people find this book?
You can get it on the Rutledge.com website. And that's the easiest way to get it. Or you can also order it on Amazon. It's available in hard copy and soft copy. And, hopefully it's, like I said, valuable resource for you. You can
Oh,
always
that's
reach out
great.
to me on LinkedIn too. And if you can't find it, I will get you a link.
Right. And if they want the master class, if they want the crash course, we've got that 3-day course from September 18th to the 20th on combination products, a risk-based approach. Susan, this has kind of been a whirlwind of learning for me while we've been talking. So I thank you for taking the time to talk about this today. Is there any last notes that you wanted to bring up or talk about before we close this out?
I'll just say this. I know a lot of people in industry kind of struggle in this area. Some people are very comfortable in, hey, I'm a device manufacturer. I'm in my comfort zone. No, I'm a pharma manufacturer. I'm okay in my comfort zone. I'm a CDMO and I'm okay in my comfort zone. Every single one of you ends up being in the boat of, oh, wait, now I'm considered a combination product manufacturer. Don't worry, you're not alone. And that's part of the reason why we have this course is to try to bring you up to speed and give you the tools to be successful in it in your businesses. And join me.